So what's up guys, Mrwhosetheboss here, and it's been quite a while since I've been this excited to bring you guys a video. This is the Google Pixel. It's one of the most hotly anticipated smartphones of the entire year, so welcome to my full review. So let's get started. The entire front of the Pixel smartphone is covered with Gorilla Glass 4, making it very resistant to scratches, to drops, and to just general wear and tear. It's fairly comfortable to grip and it feels premium, but I wouldn't say it has as much character or design flair as smartphones like the S7 Edge. And with an 8.5mm thickness, I'd say it feels a little bit on the chunky side. It's heavier than expected, and the edges aren't quite curved enough for it to fit perfectly in the hand. On top of that, even though it only has a 5-inch display, which is considered probably slightly on the small side now considering today's flagships, it actually has a poor screen-to-body ratio of 69%, which means that even when you're holding it with one hand, it's still tough to reach the top corner. When the phone was announced, a lot of people complained that it looked a little bit too much like a toy, and whilst I don't hate the design, I don't think those people are too far off. Booting it up, you'll be greeted by an experience that feels almost nothing like any previous version of Android. It runs 7.1, the animations have been refined, it's slicker than ever, and there is next to no bloatware on the Pixel. The new icons though are somewhat confusing. They're a departure from what Google seemed to be going towards with its material design. I mean, they're clean, but they're not quite uniform. Some are in a white circle and others not. Now, whilst I will cover this in more detail in a separate video, Nougat does bring a whole host of new features which are genuinely quite useful. Things like being able to have two phone languages at the same time, true multitasking, and doze, which helps to save even more battery when the phone is in standby. More on that later. And whilst I do think a lot of these new changes are welcome, some of them add character, some of them add speed, I can't help but feel that Google is sometimes changing things just for the sake of keeping them fresh. Things like needing to now swipe up to open the app drawer to me seems a little bit pointless and is actually slower than what it was previously. The screen tops out at a 1080p resolution, which seems a little on the low side for a late 2016 flagship. Up close you can tell the difference slightly between this and for example the S7 Edge, which has a 2K panel, but from any usable distance it looks plenty sharp and it uses AMOLED technology which makes for punchy colours and vivid contrast. Internally is where things get very interesting because the new Pixel packs not only 4GB of RAM, but the brand new Snapdragon 821. And to put that in perspective, that's about 10% faster than the already top of the line Snapdragon 820. Whilst that isn't a groundbreaking difference, it's fast. It's very, very fast. The UI just flies. You literally cannot get it to lag. It tops out the entire Antutu benchmark, scoring well over 130,000, which is just vast. And with only a 1080p resolution to push, this phone offers what I'd say is the smoothest gaming experience in smartphone history. Even the most intensive titles don't actually pose a threat, and I could see it serving you well for at least a couple of years to come, especially with its support for the new graphics boosting Vulkan API. Another aspect of the Pixel which truly shines is its camera. It's got a 12.3MP sensor, so whilst it might not amaze on paper, the Pixel continually surprised me when I was using it. It's got a fast shutter time, which means that pretty much every picture was completely blur free, and it's got laser autofocus, means focusing on objects is a very fast process. Some grain does start to creep in the lower lighting conditions, but no more than with any other flagship phone. Photos are detailed, HDR is handled well, and the colours are represented pretty nicely too. And with the Pixel, Google has also introduced a really handy feature called lens blur. You simply take a photo and then slide your phone up by about 5 to 10 centimeters and it will blur the background. It may seem subtle, but the effect is night and day. It makes a huge difference and can totally transform the way an image looks. It can almost make it seem like you've just taken the photo with a giant DSLR. Occasionally it does fail to detect the edges properly, but generally speaking it's an impressive effect and a nice addition to the software. And the front camera was really quite impressive too. But something that really stood out was the 4K video recording. It captures incredible detail and it's surprisingly stable. It's got a nice bitrate, so the quality of the picture that comes through is really impressive. Something worth pointing out is that every now and again it'll have a couple of issues with the color balance, but I reckon this is more on the software side and could be fixed with an update. There's only one speaker on the Pixel, but it's got a surprising punch to it. Not only does the volume reach about 20 to 30% louder than most other smartphones, but it's got a nice kick in the bass department. And the battery at 2770mAh lasts about one heavy day with 20% to spare. And that's quite a bit considering its capacity, and that's due to a combination of the new Android doze, a lower screen resolution, and more efficient components internally. It's also worth noting that the phone is water and dust resistant, not to be confused with waterproof, which means you can withstand a splash or two, but don't take it for a swim. The Fingerprint Scanner is fast and easy to feel for. I could get into my phone within 0.2 seconds almost 95% of the time. I think it's a real shame that Google didn't include microSD card support. If you do need more storage, then there is a 128GB option for you, but that is going to net you about another $100. So there we go guys, that is the Google Pixel. This is Google's way of being new, its attempt to make itself relevant again. And whilst there are a few confusing design choices and the UI won't be for everyone, this is one of the most powerful phones with one of the best cameras and some of the most sophisticated software on a mobile platform. I think it's a fantastic choice and I thoroughly recommend it. Thanks a lot for watching, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.